The throne room of Velara was silent except for the soft hum of the planet's twin moons rising outside. Queen Hana sat perfectly still on her obsidian throne, her pale hands resting on the armrests. Her eyes, completely black without pupils or irises, stared forward at nothing. She had been blind since birth, but no one who watched her would ever call her weak. The council members stood before her in a semicircle. She could sense their nervous energy, the way their hearts beat faster than normal. They were afraid to speak, but they would have to eventually. They always did when they wanted something from her. "Your Majesty," High Counselor Bora finally said, her voice careful and measured. "We must discuss the survival of our people." Hana tilted her head slightly. She didn't need eyes to know that Bora was standing 3 steps closer than protocol allowed. The woman was always pushing boundaries, always testing how far she could go. "Speak plainly, Bora," Hana said. Her voice was soft, but carried authority that made several council members straighten their backs. "Our population is dying," another counselor said quickly. His name was Taman, and he was one of the few Hana actually trusted. "The genetic damage from the radiation wars has spread too far. Our children are being born weaker with each generation. In 50 years, maybe less, there will be no more Velari." Hana had known this for years. She had felt it in the minds of her people, tasted their fear in the air itself. Her enhanced senses showed her truths that others tried to hide. The Velari Empire, once spanning 12 star systems, was crumbling from within. "You have a solution," Hana stated. It wasn't a question. "The humans," Bora said, and Hana could hear the disgust in her voice. "They are young and genetically diverse. Their DNA is remarkably adaptable. Our scientists believe that combining our species might save us. You want me to marry a human?" Hana said it flatly. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Taman spoke again. "Not just any human, Your Majesty. The Earth government has proposed a formal alliance through marriage. They're offering one of their best, a man named Doyun. He's a military officer and diplomat. He helped negotiate peace in the Outer Rim conflicts." Hana rose from her throne. She was tall for a Velari, and her silver robes seemed to shimmer in the moonlight streaming through the massive windows. She walked forward, and the council members parted instinctively. She moved with perfect confidence despite her blindness, sensing every obstacle through vibrations in the floor and air currents around her. "What do you know about him?" she asked. "He's 32 years old," Taman read from a data tablet. "Decorated soldier. He speaks 4 alien languages. His psychological profile shows high empathy and adaptability. The humans say he volunteered for this assignment." "Volunteered," Hana repeated softly. She wondered what kind of human would volunteer to marry an alien queen he'd never met. Probably someone looking for power or status. That's what this marriage was really about, wasn't it? Politics and survival, nothing more. She turned back to face her council, though she couldn't see them. "How soon?" "The Earthship arrives in 3 days," Bora said. "The wedding would take place within the week." "Your Majesty, I must say that I believe this is a mistake. Humans are primitive, violent. We should be looking for solutions among our own people, not diluting our bloodline with enough." Hana's voice was sharp. "Our bloodline is dying, Bora. There is nothing left to dilute. If the humans can help us survive, then we will accept their help. Prepare for the wedding." She walked out of the throne room, leaving the council behind. Her personal guard, Jiwan, fell into step beside her. Jiwan had been with her since childhood and was the closest thing Hana had to a friend. "Are you all right?" Jiwan asked quietly when they were alone in the corridor. "No," Hana admitted. "But it doesn't matter what I feel. This is my duty." The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparations. Hana barely slept. She spent her nights reaching out with her telepathic abilities, trying to sense the approaching Earthship. When it finally entered orbit, she felt the presence of hundreds of human minds. They were so different from Velari, louder somehow, more chaotic and emotional. Among them, one mind stood out. It was disciplined and calm, but underneath that control, she sensed curiosity and something else. Determination, maybe, or hope. That must be Doyen. The wedding day arrived too quickly. Hana wore the traditional silver gown of Velari queens, and her hair was adorned with moon crystals that had been in her family for generations. She stood in the grand temple, surrounded by thousands of her people and human diplomats who had traveled light years to witness this union. She couldn't see Doyen as he walked down the aisle toward her, but she felt him. He moved with the controlled grace of a trained warrior, but his heartbeat was fast. He was nervous. Somehow that made her feel slightly better. At least she wasn't the only one afraid. The ceremony was conducted in both Velari and English. Ancient words about unity and alliance, about two peoples becoming one. Hana spoke her vows clearly, and she heard Doyen's voice for the first time. It was deeper than she expected, with a warmth that surprised her. When the priest told them to join hands, Hana extended hers. Doyun's hand was warm when it closed around hers, and she noticed immediately that his skin was rougher than a Velari's. Working hands, she thought. Soldiers' hands, the priest blessed them, and then it was done. Hana was married to a human she had never seen and barely knew. The crowd erupted in polite applause, though she could sense the uncertainty from both sides. Velari worried about bringing a human into their royal family. Humans worried about their man being trapped on an alien world. That night they were escorted to the royal chambers. The wedding feast had been long and exhausting, full of speeches and forced pleasantries. Now finally they were alone. Hana stood in the center of the room, suddenly feeling more vulnerable than she had in years. She had no idea what to expect. Would he be cruel? Indifferent? Would he demand things from her that she wasn't ready to give? Your Majesty, Doyen said quietly. His footsteps approached slowly, cautiously. May I introduce myself properly? In the Velari way? Hana's breath caught. The Velari way of introduction involved touching faces, letting fingertips read the features of someone new. It was an intimate gesture, usually reserved for family and close friends. The fact that he knew about it, that he was asking permission, shocked her completely. You know our customs, she said. I tried to learn, he replied simply. I wanted to be respectful. Hana nodded slowly and she felt him step closer. His hands were gentle as they touched her face, learning the shape of her features. Then she raised her own hands to do the same to him. Under her fingertips she discovered a strong jaw, high cheekbones, and a small scar above his left eyebrow. His face was warm and alive, and as she traced his features, she realized something unexpected. Maybe this marriage didn't have to be as cold as she feared. The royal chambers were prepared exactly as tradition demanded. Soft lights glowed in shades of blue and silver, though Hana couldn't see them. The air was filled with the scent of night-blooming flowers from the palace gardens. Servants had turned down the massive bed and left refreshments on a low table before quietly disappearing. Now Hana stood alone with her new husband, her fingers still resting lightly on his face. She had expected many things from this night, but gentleness and cultural awareness weren't among them. Most aliens found Velari disturbing to look at. Their pure black eyes often made other species uncomfortable, and many considered them cold or unnatural. You're not what I expected, Hana said softly, dropping her hands. Neither are you, Doyen replied. She heard him move to the sitting area, and after a moment the sound of liquid being poured. Would you like some water or tea? I'm told there's a Velari blend here that's supposed to be calming. Hana couldn't help the small smile that touched her lips. He was nervous. She could hear it in the slightly too fast way he was speaking, sense it in the way his energy filled the room. Somehow that made her relax a little. She moved confidently across the room, counting her steps automatically. 16 paces from the door to the sitting area. Turn slightly left at 14, reach out at 15. Her hand found the back of the chair exactly where she knew it would be. Tea would be nice, she said, settling into the seat. Doyen poured for both of them. When he handed her the cup, his fingers brushed hers briefly. Warm, she thought again. Humans were so much warmer than Velari. I need to tell you something, Doyen said, sitting down across from her. I didn't come here just because my government told me to. I mean, yes, this is a diplomatic mission, but it's also more than that. Hana held her cup carefully, waiting. She was good at reading people through tone and body language. But Doyen was surprisingly difficult to read. His military training made him controlled, measured. I've been studying Velari medical reports for the past 6 months, he continued. Your scientists made some of their research available to us as part of the alliance negotiations. The genetic damage your people are facing, the declining birth rates, the health problems. I've been working with human scientists and doctors on possible solutions. That's very kind, Hana said carefully. But I'm sure you know we've had our best minds working on this for decades. What could humans possibly add? She didn't mean it as an insult, just a statement of fact. The Velari had been exploring space for thousands of years before humans even invented the wheel. Their medical technology was far more advanced. Fresh perspective, Doyen said simply, and different biology. Your people have been looking at the problem from inside the problem. We're outsiders. Sometimes that helps you see things differently. He paused, and Hana heard him set down his cup. I think human DNA might be compatible enough to help stabilize Velari genetics. But more than that, he took a breath. I think we might be able to cure your blindness. Hana's cup stopped halfway to her lips. For a moment, she forgot to breathe. Then she carefully set the cup down on the table, her hands suddenly unsteady. That's impossible, she whispered. I was born this way. The optical nerves never developed. There's nothing to fix. Human stem cell therapy combined with Velari regeneration technology, Doyen said, and now there was excitement in his voice. We can grow new nerve tissue. Your body's natural healing abilities are far beyond anything humans have. If we can guide that healing with human cellular templates, we might be able to build what was never there. Hana stood up abruptly, suddenly needing to move. She walked to where she knew the windows were. Pressing her palm against the cool glass, outside she could sense the vast city below. Thousands of minds flickering like distant candles in her telepathic awareness. Why? She asked.
Why would you do this?
You don't know me. We just met. She heard Doyen stand and walk closer, stopping a respectful distance behind her. 6 months ago, when my government first approached me about this mission, they showed me a video of you, he said quietly. You were giving a speech to your people about hope, about fighting for survival even when everything seems lost. You were so strong, so certain. And I thought that's someone worth helping. That's someone worth knowing. Hana turned around to face him, even though she couldn't see him. You saw a propaganda video and decided to dedicate months of your life to helping someone you'd never met. I saw someone who cared about her people more than herself. Doyen corrected. I saw someone carrying an impossible burden and refusing to break under it. That's not propaganda. That's real. Hana didn't know what to say. In her world of political marriages and diplomatic arrangements, genuine emotion was rare. People wanted things from her power, her position, her royal bloodline. They didn't just want to help. I don't need to be fixed, she said finally. I've been blind my entire life. My other senses are enhanced because of it. My telepathic abilities developed stronger than any Velari in generations. If I could see, I might lose those advantages. I know, Doyen said. That's why I said might be able to instead of I'm going to. This is your choice, Hana. Not the council's, not your people's. Yours. I just wanted you to know that the option exists. That I came here not just as a political piece but as someone who wants to offer hope. Hana was quiet for a long moment. She reached out with her telepathic sense, just a light touch against his mind. She usually tried not to invade people's privacy this way, but she needed to know if he was being truthful. What she found shocked her. His mind was full of images of her, hundreds of them. Video footage he'd studied, photographs, medical scans. He'd memorized her speech patterns, learned Velari poetry to understand her culture better, studied her people's history and customs. For months he'd been preparing for this night, determined to be worthy of her. She pulled back quickly, overwhelmed by the intensity of what she'd seen. He wasn't lying. He really did care, and she had no idea how to process that. You learned Velari poetry? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to understand how your people think, he said. How they love. How they hope. I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm trying. Recite something for me, Hana said impulsively. There was a pause, and she could sense his sudden nervousness. My pronunciation is terrible, he warned. I don't care. Doyen took a breath, then began speaking in Velari. His accent was indeed terrible, and he stumbled over several words. But he was reciting the poem of Twin Moons, an ancient work about finding light in darkness and companionship in loneliness. It was one of Hana's favorites, though she'd never told anyone that. When he finished, there was silence. Hana felt something warm on her cheek and realized with shock that she was crying. She couldn't remember the last time she'd cried. I'm sorry, Doyen said quickly. Did I pronounce something offensive? I knew I should have practiced more. No, Hana interrupted. No, you were perfect. How did you know that was my favorite? It's mentioned in an interview you gave 5 years ago. You said it reminded you that darkness isn't the absence of light, just a different way of experiencing the world. Hana laughed, a sound somewhere between joy and disbelief. This strange human had traveled across the galaxy to marry her, had spent months preparing, had brought not just diplomatic agreements but genuine hope and care. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Her hands found his face again, relearning his features. "I think," she said softly, "that maybe this marriage won't be as impossible as I thought." She felt him smile under her fingertips. "I promise you," Doyen said, "I'm going to spend every day trying to be the husband you deserve." And standing there in the royal chambers, feeling his warmth and sincerity, Hannah began to believe that maybe she had been given something precious after all. Not just a political alliance, but a partner. Not just duty, but possibility. For the first time in years, the blind queen felt like she could see a future worth hoping for. The palace gardens were Hannah's favorite place. She could feel the living energy of every plant, sense the movement of water in the fountains, and hear the soft rustle of leaves in the morning breeze. It was where she came to think, to be alone with her thoughts, away from the constant pressure of the throne. Except she wasn't alone anymore. Doyen walked beside her, his footsteps careful on the stone path. He'd been on Velara for 2 weeks now, and they'd fallen into a comfortable routine. Mornings in the garden, afternoons dealing with court business, evenings researching the medical possibilities he'd mentioned. "There's a flower here that only blooms at night," Hannah said, stopping beside a particular plant. "It has 6 petals that open in a spiral pattern. The scent is like, I don't know your human comparison. Sweet but also sharp, like remembering something sad and beautiful at the same time." "Can I touch it?" Doyen asked. Hannah smiled and guided his hand to the flower. She was getting used to helping him experience things through touch, just as he was learning to describe visual beauty in ways that made sense to her. "Your Majesty," a voice called from the palace entrance. It was Jiwan, her guard, and she sounded urgent. Hannah turned immediately. "What's wrong?" "Council meeting. High Counselor Bora has called an emergency session. She's demanding you attend immediately." Hannah exchanged a look with Doyen, or would have if she could see him. Instead, she just reached out and found his hand, squeezing it briefly. "This won't be pleasant," she warned him. "Bora hasn't been happy about our marriage." "I've noticed," Doyen said dryly. "She glares at me every time we're in the same room." "You can sense her glaring?" Hannah was amused. "It's hard to miss. I'm pretty sure if looks could kill, I'd have been dead before the wedding ended." They walked together to the council chambers. As soon as they entered, Hannah felt the tension. There were more people than usual, and the emotional atmosphere was hostile. She automatically cataloged who was present. Bora front and center naturally. Taemin off to the side, several military commanders she recognized, and some minds she didn't know, which was unusual. "Your Majesty," Bora said, her voice dripping with false courtesy. "Thank you for joining us. We have matters of grave importance to discuss." "Then discuss them," Hannah said, moving to her seat at the head of the table. Doyen stood behind her, which was his right as royal consort, but she could sense Bora's anger at his presence. "It's about the human," Bora said flatly. "We've received intelligence that Earth is planning to use this marriage as a foothold for colonization. They want to take over Velara from within." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Hannah remained perfectly still. "That's a serious accusation," she said calmly. "What evidence do you have?" Bora gestured, and someone placed a data tablet on the table. "Intercepted communications between Earth military vessels. They discuss securing strategic positions and establishing permanent presence. It's clear what they mean." Hannah picked up the tablet, though she couldn't read it herself. "Doyen, would you read this, please?" She heard Bora's sharp intake of breath. "Your Majesty, surely you're not going to let the suspect read his own evidence?" "He's my husband and my consort," Hannah said sharply. "He has every right to know what he's being accused of." "Read it, Doyen." Doyen took the tablet. There was a long pause. "This is fake," he said finally. "Of course you'd say that." One of the military commanders snapped. "No, I mean it's literally fake. Look at the authentication codes. They're not formatted correctly for Earth military communications. And this phrase here, securing strategic positions, that's not how our military talks in classified communications. This was written by someone who doesn't understand human military protocol." "Convenient," Bora said coldly. "You expect us to believe—" She was interrupted by the doors bursting open. A human man in military uniform strode in, flanked by 2 Velari guards who looked uncertain about whether they should stop him. "Captain Minho," Doyen said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" Hannah recognized the name. Minho was Doyen's former commanding officer. the one who had recommended him for this mission. Saving your life, apparently, Minho said bluntly. He looked at Hana. Your Majesty, I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but there's an assassination plot against your husband. Multiple plots, actually. Some from Earth extremists who think he's betrayed humanity, and some from... He glanced at Bora. From within your own court. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Several council members began talking at once. Hana raised her hand and silence fell immediately. Explain, she commanded. Minho pulled out his own tablet. We've been monitoring anti-alien groups on Earth. 3 days ago, we intercepted plans to poison Doyen during a state dinner. But when we investigated further, we found that someone here on Velara had contacted them first. Someone offered to pay them to do it, to make it look like an accident. That's ridiculous, Bora said, but Hana could hear the slight tremor in her voice now. Is it? Hana asked softly. Captain Minho, do you have proof? Financial transfers. Communication logs. Yes, Your Majesty, we have proof. I've already shared it with your security chief. Hana stood slowly. Then tonight's state dinner is going to be very interesting. Council dismissed. Bora, you will remain. Your Majesty, I must protest. You will remain or you will be arrested right now. Choose. Bora stayed. That evening, the state dinner proceeded as planned. Hana sat at the head of the long table, with Doyun on her right and various nobles and officials along both sides. The food was elaborate, course after course of traditional Velari cuisine. Hana couldn't see the dishes, but she could smell them. And more importantly, she could sense them. Her enhanced abilities let her detect chemical compositions to some degree. It was how she'd survived this long in a court full of ambitious nobles. The fourth course was brought out. It smelled normal, spiced vegetables and sweet sauce, a common dish. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Stop, Hana said quietly. Her voice cut through the conversation. Everyone froze. A young servant girl, barely an adult, stood beside Doyen's place with a dish in her trembling hands. She was about to set it down when Hana spoke. That dish is poisoned, Hana stated. Gasps echoed around the table. The servant girl's heart rate spiked. Hana could hear it hammering in her chest. I didn't know. The girl cried out. Please, Your Majesty, they told me it was just special spices for the human. I didn't know it was poison, please. She was crying now, terrified. Hana could sense the truth of her words. The girl really didn't know. In Velari tradition, servants were supposed to taste food before serving it to nobility. It was a way to prove the food was safe. If this girl tasted the dish now, she would die. Doyen stood up suddenly. Before anyone could stop him, he took the dish from the girl's hands. No. Hana reached out, but Doyen moved aside gently. If someone has to taste this, he said calmly, it's not going to be a scared kid who didn't do anything wrong. Doyen, it's poisoned, Hana said urgently. I know. But humans have more resilient digestive systems than Velari. I might survive long enough to get medical treatment. She definitely wouldn't. He was going to do it. He was actually going to poison himself to save a servant girl he didn't even know. Wait. Taman stood up quickly. We can test it properly. We have scanners. Please, Your Majesty, don't let him. But Doyun had already dipped his finger in the sauce and tasted it. The effect was immediate. He stumbled and Hana heard the dish crash to the floor. She was on her feet instantly, reaching for him as he collapsed. Get medical here now, she shouted. Doyen, stay with me, stay awake. She cradled his head in her lap, feeling his pulse racing too fast. Around her there was chaos. Guards were grabbing people. Someone was screaming. But all Hana could focus on was Doyen's labored breathing. The girl, he whispered. Is she okay? You're dying and you're asking about her? Hana felt tears on her face again, just wanted to make sure the medical team arrived and took over. As they carried Doyen away on a stretcher, Hana stood slowly. She turned to face her court, and even though she couldn't see them, every person in that room felt the weight of her fury. Find out who did this, she said, her voice deadly quiet. Find them now, and when you do, they will learn what happens to those who threaten my husband. In the back of the room, Bora quietly tried to slip away, but Jiwan was faster. The guard's hand closed on the counselor's shoulder like a steel trap. Going somewhere? Jiwan asked. Hana smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Excellent timing, Jiwan. I think High Counselor Bora and I need to have a very long conversation about loyalty and betrayal. Doyen woke up 3 days later in the medical wing of the palace. The first thing he saw was Hana's face hovering above his, her black eyes somehow conveying more worry than anyone else's could have. "You're an idiot," she said softly. "Nice to see you too," he croaked, his throat dry. She touched his face gently, her fingers tracing his features as if confirming he was really alive. "You almost died. For a servant girl you didn't even know. Would you have let her die?" he asked. "That's not the point. That's exactly the point." He tried to sit up, winced, and fell back against the pillows. "How long was I out?" 3 days. The poison was designed to kill Vaylari quickly. Human physiology is different enough that it just made you very, very sick instead. The doctors said another hour and... She didn't finish the sentence. Doyen reached out and found her hand, squeezing it. "I'm okay. I'm here," Bora confessed, Hana said abruptly. She hired the assassins. She was working with anti-human factions on both Valara and Earth. She wanted to destroy the Alliance and keep our people pure. She's been arrested. The trial will begin next week. And the girl? The servant? Safe, you saved her life, Hana paused. Do you know what happened after you collapsed? She threw herself between you and the guards. She thought they were going to blame you for the poison. This tiny, terrified girl stood there and screamed that you were innocent, that you'd saved her. Doyen smiled weakly. Good for her. The palace staff is calling you a hero. There are crowds outside demanding to see you, to thank you. You've become more popular than I am. There was amusement in Hana's voice, but also something deeper. Pride, maybe. I just did what anyone would do. No, Hana said firmly. You did what a good person would do. There's a difference. Over the following weeks, as Doyen recovered, something shifted between them. Hana started visiting his rooms every day, not out of duty, but because she wanted to. They talked about everything. Her childhood learning to navigate the palace blind, his memories of Earth and the brother he'd left behind, their fears about the future, their hopes for their people. One evening, Doyen asked her about her enhanced senses. What's it like, experiencing the world the way you do? Hana thought about it. It's hard to explain to someone who sees. Everything has texture and depth, but not visual depth, sound depth, emotional depth. When you walk into a room, I know you're there before I hear your footsteps. Your presence has a weight to it. Show me, Doyen said impulsively. What? Show me how to sense things the way you do. Teach me, so she did. They started with simple exercises. She blindfolded him and taught him to navigate using sound and air currents. At first, he crashed into furniture constantly and Hana couldn't stop laughing. But gradually, he improved. He learned to feel the space around him, to notice the tiny changes in air pressure that indicated walls or doorways. You're getting better, Hana said one afternoon after he'd successfully walked through 3 rooms without hitting anything. I have a good teacher, he replied, but I still can't believe you do this all the time. It's exhausting. You get used to it. Eventually it becomes automatic, she paused. Your turn. Teach me something. What do you want to learn? Teach me to see, Hana said quietly. Not literally, but tell me about colors, about visual beauty. I've had people describe it before, but they never get it right. They just say things like, the sky is blue, without explaining what blue means. Doyen took her hand and led her to the balcony. Okay, let's start with right now. It's sunset, I know. I can feel the temperature dropping. The sky is full of colors, Doyen began. Not just 1 or 2, but layers of them. Near the horizon, it's orange. That's a warm color, like the feeling of fire or energy. It's the color of excitement and movement. Above that is pink, which is softer, gentler. It's like the feeling of cherry blossoms falling or soft music. And above that, the sky transitions to purple, which is mysterious and deep, like looking into unknown space. Keep going, Hana whispered. She was leaning against the balcony rail, her face turned toward where she knew the sky must be. The sun itself is this brilliant gold color. Gold is precious and rare. It's the color of treasure and importance. When the light hits the clouds, they glow like they're on fire from the inside. And your city below us, the buildings are catching the light. The silver towers look like they're made of moonlight. Moonlight has a color. It's silver white, cold and clean and pure, like your hair. He reached out and gently touched a strand of her silver hair, like starlight. Hana was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. I've never understood before. People always made it sound so simple, but the way you describe it, I can almost see it. Not with my eyes, but with my heart. She turned to face him, and suddenly they were very close. Doyen's breath caught as she reached up and touched his face. "Thank you," she said softly, "for trying to understand my world. For sharing yours with me. Hana." He wasn't sure what he wanted to say. That he was falling in love with her? That every day with her made him grateful he'd volunteered for this mission? That he couldn't imagine being anywhere else? She smiled as if she could sense his thoughts. "Maybe she could. I know," she whispered. And then she kissed him. It was gentle at first, tentative. But then Doyen's arms came around her and she pressed closer, and the kiss deepened into something that felt inevitable. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I think," Hana said, "I'm falling in love with you." "I'm definitely falling in love with you," Doyen replied. They stood together as the sun finished setting, wrapped in each other's arms. And for the first time since becoming queen, Hana felt truly not alone. The next morning they received news that made everything even better. The medical research team had made a breakthrough. The combination of human and Velari medicine was working better than anyone had hoped. They'd successfully tested the first genetic treatments on volunteer patients, and the results were incredible. Velari who had been weak and sick were recovering. Birth defects were being prevented. The species had hope again. "There's more," the lead scientist said. "A Velari woman named Yunji. We've refined the site restoration procedure. If Queen Hana wants to proceed, we're ready." The success rate is now over 90%. Hana held Doyen's hand tightly. They were in the medical research lab, surrounded by screens and equipment she couldn't see. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course, Your Majesty. This is your decision." Later, in their private rooms, Hana paced back and forth. Doyen watched her from the couch, patient. "I don't know what to do," she admitted. "Part of me wants to see so badly it hurts. I want to know what you really look like. I want to see the sunsets you describe. I want to watch the faces of my people instead of just sensing their emotions." "But," Doyen prompted gently, "but I'm afraid. What if I lose my other senses? What if my telepathic abilities fade? Those things make me who I am. They make me a good leader, and—" She paused, struggling to put it into words. "What if I see you and you're not what I imagined? What if reality doesn't match what I've built in my mind?" Doyen stood and walked to her. He took both her hands in his. "I can't answer those questions for you," he said, "but I can tell you this. Whatever you decide, I'll be here. If you choose to restore your sight, I'll be the first person you see. If you choose to stay as you are, I'll keep describing the world to you for the rest of our lives. I don't love you because of what you can or can't do. I love you because of who you are." Hana felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "How did I get so lucky?" "I think I'm the lucky one," Doyen said. "I got to marry an amazing, brilliant, beautiful queen who challenges me every day to be better." She kissed him then, pouring all her gratitude and love into it. When they finally broke apart, she had made her decision. "Not yet," she said. "I want to wait. Maybe someday I'll be ready, but right now I'm happy as I am. I have you. I have my people. I have hope for the future. That's enough." "Then that's perfect," Doyen said simply. They spent the rest of the evening on the balcony. Doyen described the stars to her, pointing out constellations visible from Velara. Hana taught him to sense the subtle energy patterns of the city below. They shared their worlds with each other, building something new between them. Something that was neither purely human nor purely Velari, but uniquely theirs, and in that moment, blind queen and human warrior, they were completely content. 3 months had passed since the assassination attempt. Bora's trial had resulted in her being stripped of all titles and imprisoned for life. The alliance between humans and Velari was growing stronger every day. Hybrid medical centers were opening across the planet, and the first human families had begun settling on Velara as part of the cultural exchange program. Everything seemed perfect. Which should have been Hana's first warning that something was wrong. She was in a council meeting when she felt it. A sudden spike of fear and anger from somewhere in the city. Then another, and another. Something was happening. "Meeting adjourned," she said abruptly, standing up. "Your Majesty?" Taman looked confused. "We haven't finished discussing the trade. Now," Hana said sharply. She reached out with her telepathic senses, trying to understand what was wrong. There were riots. Actual riots in the streets of her capital. That hadn't happened in decades. Jiwan burst into the room. Your Majesty, we have a situation. Anti-human protests have turned violent. They're attacking the hybrid medical centers and human residences. What? Why? Hana demanded. Someone released documents claiming Earth military is planning to colonize Velara. They say the medical program is just the first step, that soon humans will outnumber Velari and take over completely. That's insane, Hana said. Where is Doyun? He went to the Eastern Medical Center this morning to check on the new equipment shipment. We've lost contact with his security team. Hana's blood ran cold. Get me transport now. Your Majesty, it's too dangerous. I said now. The trip to the Eastern District took far too long. Hana could sense the chaos around her as their vehicle pushed through blocked streets. Angry minds pressed in from all sides. Someone threw something at their vehicle, and she heard it shatter against the armored exterior. When they finally reached the medical center, it was surrounded by an angry mob. The building's windows were broken and she could smell smoke. Doyun. She reached out with her telepathic sense, searching desperately for his familiar presence. They're inside the building, but wrong. His mind was fuzzy, confused. He was hurt. I'm going in, Hana said. Absolutely not, Jiwon protested. We need to wait for reinforcements. My husband is in there. Hana was already moving toward the building. Jiwon cursed and followed with the rest of the guard. They fought their way through the mob. Hana hated using her telepathic abilities as a weapon, but she had no choice. She pushed mental force at the rioters, making them stumble back in confusion. It gave her guards enough opening to get her to the entrance. Inside, the medical center was destroyed. Equipment was smashed and injured people, both human and Velari, were huddled in corners. And there in the center of the main room, surrounded by attackers, was Doyun. He was bleeding from a cut above his eye and his left arm hung at a wrong angle. But he was standing between the attackers and a group of Velari civilians who had been receiving treatment. Get back, he was shouting. These people are sick. They have nothing to do with politics. You brought your poison here, one of the attackers yelled back. You're destroying us from the inside. I'm trying to save you. Doyun looked desperate. The medical treatments are working. Your people are getting healthy again. We'd rather die than become human slaves. One of the attackers raised a metal bar, about to bring it down on Doyun's head. But Hana was faster. She released a telepathic pulse that knocked every attacker to their knees. Enough! Her voice rang through the room with absolute authority. I am your queen and I command you to stop. The silence that followed was complete. Everyone stared at her, the rioters on their knees, the injured civilians, Doyun with blood running down his face. You want to know about Earth's plans? Hana continued, her voice cold. I'll tell you. They plan to help us survive. They plan to share their knowledge in medicine. They plan to be our allies. That's all they've ever planned. The documents, one of the rioters started, are fake. Hana cut him off. Just like the ones Bora tried to use. Someone is still working to destroy this alliance, and you've all played right into their hands. She walked forward, and the crowd parted before her. She went straight to Doyun, her hands finding his face, feeling the damage. You're hurt, she said softly. I'm okay. The others are worse. I was trying to protect them. Of course he was. Even injured and surrounded, he'd been protecting others. That was just who he was, Your Majesty. Jiwon called from the entrance. We have a bigger problem. Captain Minho and his team are being attacked at the spaceport. Someone's trying to destroy the Earthship. Hana's jaw tightened. This wasn't random violence. This was coordinated. Someone had planned all of this to happen at once to overwhelm their defenses. Get medical teams here, she ordered. Treat everyone, humans and Velari alike. Jiwon, take half the guard and secure the spaceport. I'm staying with Doyun. Your Majesty, you need to address your people. I will, from here, where they can see me standing with my husband and both our peoples. She turned to face the crowd that had gathered, including many of the rioters who looked ashamed now. I know you're afraid, Hana said, her voice carrying. Change is terrifying. I understand that. But destroying ourselves out of fear isn't the answer. We're dying. Our species is fading. The humans offered us hope when we had none. They didn't have to do that. They could have just watched us disappear, but instead they reached out their hands in friendship. She gestured to Doyun. This man left his home planet, his family, everything he knew, to help us. He married me not for power or conquest, but because he believed we deserved to survive. And today, when he could have escaped and saved himself, he chose to protect Velari civilians with his own body. Does that sound like someone planning to enslave us? The crowd was silent, listening. "We have enemies," Hana continued. "Real enemies who want to keep us divided and weak. They release fake documents. They spread lies. They turn us against each other. But I won't let them win. We are stronger together, human and Velari, than we could ever be apart." A Velari woman stepped forward from the crowd. She was older, her skin marked with the radiation scars that afflicted so many of Hana's people. "I was receiving treatment here," she said quietly. "The human doctor said I had maybe 6 months to live. After just 1 month of their therapy, I'm getting better. My daughter," her voice broke, "my daughter might not have to watch me die now." "Because of them." Another person stepped forward, then another, each one sharing stories of how the human medicine had helped them or their families. The rioters, faced with these testimonies, began to look uncertain. Some started backing away, shame evident on their faces. "Who told you about the fake documents?" Hana asked. "Who spread this information?" "It was on the public network," someone said. "An anonymous source. They said they worked in the palace and had proof." "Another lie," Hana said wearily. "Jiwon, trace those network messages. Find out where they really came from." By the time reinforcements arrived, the riot had dissolved. Medical teams were treating the injured, both human and Velari. Doyen's arm was being set in a temporary cast, and someone was cleaning the cut on his face. Hana stayed beside him, holding his good hand. "You could have died," she said quietly so only he could hear. "So could you. You shouldn't have come here. You're my husband. Where else would I be?" He squeezed her hand. "Same answer I'd give you." Captain Minho arrived an hour later, looking grim. "We saved the ship, but it was close. Whoever planned this knew exactly when our guard would be thinnest. This wasn't just random violence, Your Majesty. This was a coordinated attack." "I know," Hana said, "and I'm going to find out who's behind it." It took 2 days of investigation, but Jiwon finally found the source of the fake documents. They'd been created by someone with high-level security clearance, someone who had access to government communication systems. When Jiwon brought Hana the name, her blood turned to ice. "Taemin?" she whispered. "That's impossible. He's been my most trusted advisor for years. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, but the evidence is clear. He's been working with remnants of Bora's faction. They've been planning this since her arrest." Hana felt betrayed in a way she hadn't expected. Taemin had been her friend. She'd trusted him completely. "Bring him to the throne room," she said, her voice empty. "It's time to end this." When Taemin was brought before her in chains, he didn't even try to deny it. "You don't understand," he said desperately. "The humans will destroy us, not through violence, but through absorption. In a few generations, there won't be any pure Velari left. We'll all be mixed hybrid. Our culture, our identity, everything that makes us us will be gone. And if we do nothing, we'll all be dead," Hana said coldly. "Is that better? Is extinction preferable to change?" "Yes," Taemin shouted. "Better to die as ourselves than become something else." Hana stood from her throne and walked down to face him directly. "You tried to kill my husband. You nearly started a war. You betrayed everything I trusted you with. And for what? For pride? For fear of change?" "For our people!" Taemin insisted. "Our people are healing," Hana said. "They're surviving. They're hoping again. That's what matters. Not your narrow vision of purity." She turned away from him, unable to look at him anymore. "Take him away. He'll stand trial for treason." 2 weeks after the riots, things were still tense but improving. The truth about the fake documents had been revealed to everyone, and public opinion was slowly shifting back in favor of the alliance. But Hana could sense that the damage went deeper than anyone wanted to admit. Trust once broken was hard to repair. She was in the gardens with Do-yoon, their usual morning routine, when Jiwon approached with urgent news. "Your Majesty, there's been an incident. Captain Minho was attacked leaving the military compound. He's in critical condition." Hana stood so quickly her chair fell backward. "What happened?" "Explosive device. 3 others were killed instantly. Minho survived, but..." Jiwon hesitated. "The doctors say it's bad." Doyen was already running toward the palace before anyone else could move. Hana followed, her heart pounding. Minho had become a friend to both of them. He'd saved Doyen's life during the assassination attempt, and he'd been working tirelessly to strengthen Earth-Velara relations. The medical wing was chaos when they arrived. Human and Velari doctors worked side by side, shouting orders, moving equipment. Hana could sense the urgency, the fear, the desperate fight to save a life. How bad? Doyen demanded. Dr. Yunji, the same scientist who had worked on the genetic research, stepped out of the operating room. Her face was grave, critical. Multiple organ failures, severe trauma to the nervous system. We're keeping him stable for now, but, she paused. He won't survive the night without intervention. Then intervene. Doyen said desperately, it's not that simple. The damage is too severe for either human or Velari medicine alone. We'd need to use the experimental regeneration therapy, the one we developed from combining both our technologies. Hana felt cold understanding wash over her. The same treatment you were going to use to restore my sight. Yes, Your Majesty. The resources required are extensive. The biological materials we've prepared, the specialized equipment, the carefully cultured cells. We only have enough for one procedure. We were saving it for when you decided you were ready. The silence that followed was crushing. Use it on Minho, Hana said immediately. Your Majesty, Yunji started. That wasn't a request. Save his life. Hana, wait, Doyen interrupted. He turned to her, his face tortured. You can't make this decision so quickly. This is your sight. Your chance to see. We can find another way. There is no other way, Hana said firmly. You heard her. Minho will die tonight without this treatment. My sight can wait. His life cannot. It might not just wait, Yunji said quietly. The biological materials we've prepared are specifically tailored to this moment. Your body's chemistry changes over time. If we use these resources now, we'd have to start the entire process over. It could take years to prepare again. Maybe never if something goes wrong. I understand, Hana said. Do it anyway. Doyen grabbed her hands. Think about this, please. I know you care about Minho, I do too, but this is your one chance to see, Hana finished. I know. But Doyen, if I let him die just so I can see, what kind of person would that make me? How could I live with that? How could you? He stared at her and she sensed the war happening inside him. He wanted her to have her sight. He'd been working toward this goal since before they even met, but he also knew she was right. You're the bravest person I've ever met, he whispered. No, I'm just doing what anyone decent would do. Save him, Dr. Yunji. That's an order from your queen. The procedure took 8 hours. Hana and Doyen waited in the corridor outside, neither of them speaking much. At one point, Doyen tried to apologize for putting her in this position, for bringing Minho to Velara in the first place, but Hana stopped him. Don't you dare blame yourself. Minho chose to come here. He chose to help us, just like you did. That's not something to apologize for. When Yunji finally emerged, she looked exhausted but relieved. He'll live, she said simply. The regeneration therapy worked. He'll need weeks of recovery, but he's going to survive. The relief was so intense that Hana actually felt dizzy. Doyen hugged her tightly and she could feel him shaking, but the procedure had done something neither of them expected. Because the therapy required such deep biological intervention, they'd needed to establish a telepathic connection between the patient and someone with the right neural patterns. Someone with royal Velari bloodline whose mind could guide the healing process. They'd needed Hana. For 8 hours. Hana had been linked to Minho's consciousness, sharing his pain, anchoring him to life while the treatment rebuilt his damaged body. It was the most intimate thing she'd ever done with someone who wasn't Doyen, and it had left marks on both of them. When Minho woke up 3 days later, the first thing he said was, Your Majesty, you're in my head. Hana, sitting beside his bed, smiled. I know, I'm sorry. It's a side effect of the procedure. The link should fade in a few weeks. I can feel what you're feeling, Minho said, wonder in his voice. You're relieved. And tired. And there's something else. Sadness? I gave up something important to save you, Hana admitted. But I'd do it again. You're important to us. To both of us. What did you give up? When she told him, Minho tried to sit up, then winced and fell back. No, you shouldn't have done that. Your sight, that was everything. They'd been working on it for months. And now I'll have to wait longer. It's okay, Minho, really, I've been blind my entire life. I can wait a few more years. But privately, to herself, she wondered if she'd ever get another chance. Over the next few weeks, something strange happened. The telepathic link between Hana and Minho didn't fade as expected. Instead, it stabilized into something permanent. She could sense him always. a quiet presence at the edge of her consciousness, and he could sense her too. It's because the healing was so deep, Yunji explained. Your minds had to synchronize completely for the regeneration to work. You're bonded now, similar to how you're bonded with your husband. Doyen found the whole thing amusing, so now I have to share you with my best friend. It's not the same, Hana protested. With you, it's intimate. With Minho, it's more like he's family, like a brother. I know, Doyen said, pulling her close. I'm just teasing. But there was a gift in the unexpected bond. Through Minho, Hana could access his memories, including his visual memories. For the first time in her life, she could see through someone else's eyes in real time. One evening, she asked Minho to look at Doyen for her. I want to know what he really looks like, she said. I've touched his face 100 times, but I want to see him through your eyes. Minho did as she asked, and suddenly Hana was seeing her husband for the first time. Not through her imagination or other people's descriptions, but actually seeing him. He was more beautiful than she'd imagined. His features were strong but kind, with laugh lines around his eyes and a scar on his jaw she'd felt but never visualized. His hair was dark and slightly messy, and when he smiled at something Minho said, his whole face lit up. Hana gasped, overwhelmed by the reality of him. What's wrong? Doyen asked, concerned. Nothing, Hana whispered. I just saw you. Through Minho's eyes. You're so beautiful. Doyen looked confused, then understanding dawned. He turned to Minho. You let her see through your eyes? She asked. Minho said simply. Doyen came and knelt beside Hana's chair, taking her hands. What did you think? I think I made the right choice, Hana said softly. Falling in love with you. That night, alone in their chambers, Hana and Doyun talked about what the future might hold. Do you regret it? Doyen asked. Giving up the treatment? No, Hana said without hesitation. I won't lie and say I don't wonder what it would be like to see. But I saved a life, Doyen. And I gained something too. This bond with Minho. I can see through his eyes when I need to. It's not the same as having my own sight, but it's something. You're amazing, Doyen said. I'm practical, Hana corrected. And I have you. That's all I really need. Still, Doyen said thoughtfully, maybe someday we'll find a way. Medical science keeps advancing. The cooperation between humans and Veilari is producing breakthroughs no one expected. Maybe in a few years, maybe, Hana agreed. But I'm not waiting around for it. I have a planet to rule and a husband to love and 2 peoples to unite. That's enough to keep me busy. She leaned against him, feeling his warmth and strength. Besides, she added with a small smile, I've learned something important through all of this. Seeing isn't just about eyes. It's about perception, understanding, and connection. And I've got all of that already. Doyen kissed the top of her head. You're absolutely right. You see more than most people who have perfect vision. Exactly. So stop worrying about me. I'm fine. Better than fine. I'm happy, and she was. Despite everything, the betrayals, the violence, the sacrifice, she had found something precious. She had found love, partnership, and purpose. She had found hope. Through the window, she sensed the twin moons rising over Velara. She couldn't see them, but she knew they were beautiful. Doyen had described them to her so many times that she could picture them perfectly in her mind. Sometimes, she thought, the pictures we create in our hearts are more true than anything our eyes could show us, and that was enough. 1 year had passed since Hana's wedding to Doyun. The palace gardens had become their sanctuary, and today they were hosting a celebration unlike any Velara had seen before. The anniversary of the alliance was being marked with festivals across the planet, but the main event was happening right here. Hana stood in the grand pavilion, sensing the crowd gathered around them. Hundreds of people, human and Veilari, mixed together. A year ago, such mixing would have been unthinkable. Now it was becoming normal. Nervous? Doyen asked beside her, taking her hand. A little, Hana admitted. Public speeches always make me nervous. You're the queen. You give speeches all the time. Doesn't mean I enjoy them. He squeezed her hand and she felt his support flowing through their bond. Over the past year, that bond had grown deeper and stronger. Sometimes she knew what he was thinking before he said it. Sometimes he could sense her moods from across the palace. Your Majesty, Ji-won said quietly. It's time. Hana stepped forward to address her people. The crowd fell silent immediately. 1 year ago, she began, I married a man I had never met. A human from a planet I had never visited. Many of you thought it was a mistake. Some of you fought against it. I understood your fear because I felt it too. She paused, letting her words settle. But today I stand before you with hope. Not just hope, but proof. Proof that different species can work together. Proof that change doesn't mean destruction. Proof that sometimes the scariest decisions lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Behind her, Dr. Yunji stood with a group of medical personnel. Among them were parents holding children. The first generation born from human Velari couples. Healthy, strong children who represented the future of both species. These children, Hana continued, gesturing toward them even though she couldn't see them, are the future. They carry the best of both our peoples, and they are not alone. Across Velara, our medical centers report that genetic illness rates have dropped by 60%. Life expectancy has increased. Our population is growing again for the first time in 50 years. The crowd erupted in applause. Hana waited for it to quiet down. This didn't happen by accident. It happened because humans reached out in friendship when they didn't have to. It happened because brave people like my husband left their homes to help us. It happened because we chose hope over fear. She turned slightly toward Doyen. And it happened because I was lucky enough to fall in love with the man they sent me. More applause, some laughter. Hana smiled. But our work isn't finished. There are still those who resist change. Still those who spread fear and hatred. We must remain strong. We must continue building bridges instead of walls. We must remember that different doesn't mean dangerous. As she spoke, Minho watched from the side. He was fully recovered now, though he bore scars from his near-death experience. Through their telepathic link, Hana could sense his pride in how far they'd all come. After the speech, there were demonstrations of the new technology that had emerged from human Velari cooperation. Hybrid medical scanners that could detect illness in both species. Communication devices that translated not just language but emotional context. Agricultural techniques that combined Velari environmental science with human genetic engineering to produce crops that could feed both species. Hana participated in all of it, letting Doyen guide her when necessary, but mostly navigating confidently on her own. She had spent a year learning every inch of the pavilion, and her enhanced senses told her where everything and everyone was. As the sun began to set, Doyen and Hana slipped away from the celebration. They walked through the gardens to their favorite spot, a quiet bench beneath a flowering tree that only bloomed once a year. Tired? Doyen asked as they sat down. Exhausted, Hana admitted, but happy. This year has been harder than I ever imagined, but also better. No regrets? About marrying you? Never. She leaned her head on his shoulder, though I still can't believe you volunteered for this. Best decision I ever made, Doyen said simply. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying each other's presence. Then Doyen shifted slightly. I have something for you, he said. An anniversary gift. You already gave me that beautiful necklace this morning. This is different. She heard nervousness in his voice, which was unusual for him. Dr. Yunji approached me last week. They've had a breakthrough. Hana felt her heart skip. What kind of breakthrough? The site restoration procedure. They've found a way to do it with fewer resources, and more importantly, they've been growing new biological materials specifically attuned to you. The procedure is ready whenever you are. Hana sat very still. For a whole year, she had told herself she was fine without sight, that she had made peace with her choice. And she had. But the possibility still called to her like a distant song. How long have you known? She asked quietly. 2 weeks. I wanted to wait until today to tell you. I wanted this to be a choice you made on a day of celebration, not pressure. What do you think I should do? Doyen took her hands in his. I think this has to be completely your decision. I fell in love with you exactly as you are. If you choose to remain blind, I'll be happy. If you choose to see, I'll be happy. What matters to me is that you choose freely. Hana stood up and walked a few steps away, thinking. She could hear the celebration continuing in the distance. She could sense Doyen behind her, patient and supportive. She could feel the evening breeze on her face and the soft grass under her feet. For her entire life, she had been blind. It had shaped who she was, how she ruled, how she understood the world. Her enhanced senses, her telepathic abilities, all of it came from her blindness. If she could see, what would she lose? But also, what would she gain? She thought about all the sunsets Doyen had described to her. The faces of her people she had only touched, never seen. The children being celebrated today, whose features she knew through telepathy but had never witnessed with her own eyes. And she thought about Doyen, her husband, who she loved more than anything, who she had seen through other people's eyes but never through her own. She turned back to face him. "I want to see you," she said simply. "I want to see the man I love. I want to watch the sunsets with you instead of just hearing about them. I want to look at our people and see their faces when they smile." "Are you sure?" Doyen asked, standing up. "Because we can wait. I've waited my whole life," Hana said. "I'm ready now. I'm not afraid anymore." Doyen crossed to her and pulled her into a tight hug. "When do you want to do it?" "Tomorrow," Hana decided. "I want to start this next year with new eyes." The procedure was scheduled for the following morning. Hana spent the night saying goodbye to her blindness in her own way. She walked through the palace touching everything, memorizing textures and shapes. She sat in the throne room, sensing the space around her one last time. She stood in the gardens, letting the night sounds wash over her. Doyen stayed with her through all of it, understanding that she needed to process this transition. "Are you scared?" he asked as they finally went to bed. "Terrified," Hana admitted. "What if everything looks wrong? What if the world isn't as beautiful as I imagined? What if I can't adjust?" "Then we'll figure it out together," Doyen said. "Like we figure everything out." The next morning came too quickly. Hana woke early, unable to sleep. She lay in bed listening to Doyen breathe beside her, memorizing the sound. Soon she would be able to watch him sleep instead. The medical center was quiet when they arrived. Dr. Yunji had assembled her best team, both human and Velari specialists working together. The procedure would take several hours and required Hana to be conscious throughout. "The regeneration needs to be guided by your own neural patterns," Yunji explained as they prepared Hana. "You'll feel strange sensations as the new optical nerves grow and connect. Some patients describe it as pressure, others as tingling. Everyone experiences it differently." Hana lay back on the medical table, suddenly very aware that this was really happening. Doyen held her hand tightly. "I'll be right here the whole time," he promised. "You'd better be," Hana said, trying to sound brave. "You're going to be the first thing I see." The procedure began. Yunji was right about the strange sensations. Hana felt pressure building behind her eyes, then a tingling that spread through her skull. It wasn't painful exactly, but it was deeply uncomfortable. Through it all, Doyen described what was happening. The equipment, the concerned faces of the doctors, the way the monitors showed her brain activity changing. He painted pictures with words, keeping her grounded when the sensations became overwhelming. After 3 hours, something shifted. Hana suddenly felt different, like a door had opened in her mind that had never existed before. "The optical nerves have connected," Yunji said excitedly. "Now we need to activate them slowly. Your Majesty, this is going to feel very strange. Your brain has never processed visual information before. It won't make sense at first." "I'm ready," Hana said, though she wasn't sure that was true. "Activating now," starting with very dim light. At first Hana felt nothing. Then gradually she became aware of something completely new. Not darkness, she knew darkness intimately. This was different, shapes, shadows, the concept of light itself. "I see something," she whispered. "I don't know what it is, but I see it."